Today we're bringing you another delicious recipe. We're cooking charro beans. Whenever we want to kick up our bean game, this is what we do. We're going to rinse our beans, chop up our bacon, wiener, salt pork. We're also going to use about 3 inches off of this chorizo sausage here. Chop up about half of this onion, the whole tomato. We're going to use the serrano whole and the jalapeno whole. About a 1/4 cup of tomato sauce. We're going to use about a tablespoon of butter. Stir up all these ingredients and we're going to put them into the bean pot about halfway through the cook. And we're also going to use a tablespoon of OG in the pot when we get started. Now OG is salt, pepper, and garlic. It really adds an amazing flavor to the charro beans or any dish you use it on. So with all of that said, let's get started. What exactly is a charro? A lot of people call them charro beans or frijoles charros in Spanish, but what is a charro? A charro is a Mexican cowboy. I guess this is the recipe that came about by the beans they used to cook when they were out on the trail somewhere. In this case, today, we're gonna make this recipe, and if you make this recipe, I promise you're gonna love it. It is excellent. Okay, we're gonna add 4 cups of water to start out with. Generally, it takes about 8 cups, so I'm gonna get a little bit more water. And once you get it onto the stove and they start to simmer a little bit, what happens is the beans will start to absorb some of that water and they puff up, so they get a little bit bigger. So you definitely want to be careful that you do have enough instead of not enough. All right, let's go ahead and get a tablespoon of our OG in here. We should always start with a tablespoon of OG or about a tablespoon of salt. If you don't use OG, start with just a tablespoon for about 2 cups of beans and about 8 cups of water. All right, now let's go ahead and get these on the stove. And what you want to do first is get the bacon and the salt pork in the pan, because you want them to kind of start warming up and releasing some of the oil and the moisture that's in it. That will be your base oil to stir fry the onion and the garlic and the tomato and all the other ingredients that we're going to add to the pan. All right, now let's take the wiener too. And as I said, I'm going to take about more or less 3 inches of this chorizo right here. And it does have that skin, so make sure you get that skin out of there. Here we go. Let's get the salt pork first, like I said, and the bacon. All right, now we're gonna take about half of this onion, and I'm just gonna cut it into little pieces as well. And the serrano, I like to poke a couple of holes in it just because it allows the flavor of the seeds inside, the hot, to come out into the broth. We're gonna cut up our tomato, and we're basically gonna cube it up too. All right, we're gonna take 1 whole jalapeno, and I'm gonna poke this same way I poked the other one. About a tablespoon of butter here, and put the other away. So we've got our butter. All right, we also want to chop up our garlic. It doesn't have to be super fine, as long as you cut it up a little bit. I can hear my meat sizzling over there. Sounds good. I can already smell the aroma here in the room. Let's go stir our meats a little bit. We don't want them to get too brown. We just want them to get a little bit cooked so that we can add the other ingredients. All right, so the next thing we want to do is stir our meat around a little bit. You can see it's getting that nice little brown char in there, little Maillard reaction going on in the pot. That's some really yummy stuff. You want to bring it up slow so that it releases the moisture. Now over here we've got our beans already starting to simmer just a little bit. Look at all that steam. There we go. Light simmer. You don't want to boil, you just want a nice light little simmer. All right, so now we're adding the wieners and the chorizo. We're starting to see all the oil there in the pot that comes from the bacon and the salt pork. You want to start mixing it all together. All right, next up, the onions. We want those onions to start caramelizing a little bit. All right, now we're stir frying all these things together. It's really smelling amazing in this kitchen. Now it's time to throw in the garlic. You don't want to throw the garlic in too early. You want to wait till the onions are kind of translucent and everything's already kind of semi-cooking there, because the garlic will burn and turn bitter if you put it in too early. You're also going to drop the serrano pepper in there. You want to give it a nice little roast flavor on there as well. Let's take a look at our bean pot here. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things you got to look out for is make sure you have enough water. You can see where the beans are starting to puff up a little bit, and it looks to me like we need a little bit more water. So we're going to add about another cup, maybe 2. All right, back to our other pan. Everything's looking really good there. I think it's about time to add the tomatoes. The tomatoes are going to add a little bit of moisture because they have a lot of water inside of them. We're going to stir that up. Whoo! Can you hear that sizzle? Man, that sounds good and it smells even better. Now all this is looking really good. So let's go ahead and turn this off. We're gonna let it set a while until the beans are about halfway done. Down to the very end, we're gonna put a little bit of cilantro as well. All right, let's check these beans one more time. It's been exactly 1 hour, and you see we've got a nice rolling boil, a little bit higher than a simmer. That's about as high as you wanna get. You don't want a fast rolling boil because the beans will crack. In about another 25-30 minutes, we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients, which are ready to go over here. All right, friends, it's time to add the veggies and all the extra little meats into our beans. We have that little rolling boil going, and here we go. We're also gonna put in the jalapeno at this point, and we're gonna put that tablespoon of butter and the tomato sauce. Folks, man, if you could smell the aroma right now, smell-o-vision is what we all need. God, it smells so good, so good. Oh man, they look great already. They're gonna be done in about 30 minutes, more or less. We're gonna go ahead and put the lid back on and let them finish cooking. All right, friends, it's been right at 2.5 hours. We are ready to add the cilantro into our beans. They're only gonna cook about another 15 minutes. We like to add the cilantro in at the very end like that because it makes the flavor really pop a little bit more. And so we're gonna put the lid back on and then just let them finish cooking for about 15 minutes and then shut them down. All right, we did a little taste test on the beans, and we just kind of felt like it needed a little more salt flavor, so we're gonna put another teaspoon of OG in there. Put the lid back on. We're gonna give them about 10-15 more minutes, and we are done. All right, my barbecue loving friends, inside this pot, we have some magical Frijoles Charros, also known as charro beans or cowboy beans. Let's open up this pot of deliciousness and see what we have. Whoo, look at that, baby. That looks cool. All right, let's give them a little stir. This is kind of what you want. You want a nice soupy bean like this, not too thick. This is really good. It smells amazing. Wow. How about that? All right, let's get a bowl, see how these taste. Ooh, baby. They're wonderful, just wonderful. Honey, I think we're gonna have to make these charro beans a little more often. This is really, really good. Mama!
What?
Come taste these beans, Mom.
Okay.
They're friggin' awesome.
They look great.
Here you go, Mama. But these are so dang good. I wanted my mom to taste them.
They're so delicious. But you know what would make them better?
Huh?
A scoop of rice.
I agree with my mom. We should put a scoop of rice in here. There you go, Mom. Come on, so you can be in the camera. Oh, yeah.
Let's see who finishes first.
Cheers!
Cheers!
This is so good. You put all those ingredients into your mouth along with the beans at the same time, and then you have the OG spices giving it that savor also. Man, that's just like a flavor explosion in your mouth that is just amazing. Then you add a little bit of this rice. It just kicks it into the stratosphere, man. I ain't lying. Folks, you gotta try these two things together. This is a meal fit for a king. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like it if you did. I hope you got some value out of it. If you're interested in getting some of our OG and our wow rubs, you can get it at pitmaster.us. If you want to kick your barbecue game up a little bit higher or a lot higher if you're in the comp world, go to pitmasterclass.us. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to keep the smoke light and make it wow. Let's eat, Mama.
Let's eat.
Man, that's good. Honey, you want me to make you a bowl?